Welcome to Rewatch and Rank. On this channel, we rewatch older TV shows, provide a summary and opinion on the episode before ranking each episode against each other. And today's episode is One Piece East Blue Saga Arlong Park Arc, Episode 33, Usopp's Death, Luffy, Yet to Land. Episode in a nutshell is a brief reminder of the episode. In this episode, everybody keeps missing each other. We basically have Usopp running away from the various fishmen who are chasing him after Kokoyashi Village, and he manages to trick them with a wooden bark cutout of himself, and then he manages to get away and he flees through the grass until he ends up at a cliff. Luckily, there's a tree there, so he contorts his body to blend in with the tree branches so that they can't see him. And conveniently, the one piece of him sticking out his hair has a bird land on it, making it look like a bird's nest, and then they leave giving up. Shortly after that, Chu, who is strong-arming a random local, happens to see him fall down the cliff and swim over. Usopp thinks the guy trying to warn him is cheering for him until Chu arrives, and then Chu drags him by the nose back to Arlong Park. While this is happening, Zoro is chilling in Arlong's seat at Arlong Park when he happens to hear Hatchen fishing and managing to catch himself after complimenting him, like the catch as being like the gutsiest fish in all blue, and oh, it actually ended up being him. Hatchen then asks him for his name before introducing himself before Zoro can give his name, asking if he's a guest, and when Zoro says he guesses he could be considered a guest, Hatchen then offers to take him to where Arlong is at Kokoyashi Village, and so Hatchen and him leave Arlong Park just as Arlong is returning from Kokoyashi Village to find all of his brethren slaughtered. And this is, of course, a great shock, and then he finds out that Zara was the swordsman that he had captured that was in their prison. And Karubi manages to find the cut rope and suspects potentially somebody helped him, but most likely Nami. Meanwhile, Chu arrives back with Usopp and they begin to threaten Usopp because obviously he was with Zoro, he arrived with Zoro, so since they want Zoro, they're threatening Usopp, who also did attack Arlong, and so, his life is forfeit. But then Nami arrives and hears herself being suspected, and so she comes in and tells Usopp like she's not on his side. He doesn't believe her. She then, in order to avoid any future suspicion, especially after her treasure map is found and held out to her, she basically stabs Usopp and he falls into the water, and she says that it's just him because he got in the way of her 8-year business. Meanwhile, Zoro has arrived at Kokoyashi Village to find out Arlong has left, and Usopp also caused a ruckus and has been taken to Arlong Park, so Zoro then decides to go run towards Arlong Park. Meanwhile, Johnny saw what happened with Nami and Usopp and therefore is running back to try to find Zoro to notify him that Nami has killed Usopp. And this, of course, is when Luffy and Sanji and Yosaku finally arrive. However, because of their beating up of Momu, he ends up getting a bit disoriented, and instead of going to Arlong Park, he ends up slamming into a cliff, which launches their boat onto the island, and as it's flying through the air, it ends up catching Zoro on the way, and they end up at the scene of the crash. Zoro then goes to leave to try to go get Usopp, but that is when Johnny arrives to tell them that Usopp is dead, and that is where we leave this episode. So now that we've summarized what happened, it's time to rank the episode. We'll rank the episode on our mostly objective ranking list, followed by the personal ranking list. On our mostly objective ranking list, we have 2 positives that applied. First, we have our multi-arc main character development. which is the deal to buy Kokoyashi Village that Nami has with Arlong as the reason that she joined the Arlong crew in the first place is revealed. So the 100 million berries that she's trying to get is so that she can buy Kokoyashi Village from Arlong and basically everybody's lives in Kokoyashi Village. And then there is Nami killing Usopp, though I forgot to mention in the summary, but right at the very end of the episode, we see a figure wrapped in cloth coming out of the ocean, asking itself if it's a ghost, and just know that kills is in quotations. Then that's worth 4 points. And then the multi-arc main character growth has to do with Usopp, who reveals 2 new attacks, his special attack Egg Star, and then his special attack Smoke Star. And that's also worth 4 points, making this episode an 8 out of 10. And as an 8 out of 10, our mostly objective ranking so far has the most wicked Man of East Blue, Fishman Pirate Arlong in first place. This episode comes in second, Usopp's death, Luffy yet to land. And then the Witch of Kokoyashi Village, Arlong's female officer, is in third. So my personal ranking, I'll reveal it first. I agree with the objective ranking in this case. I put it at an 8. Not necessarily for the same reasons. I always do like when we get new attacks, and Usopp did reveal 2 new attacks, so that's fun. One was rotten eggs in the eyes of the fishmen chasing him, which was a little bit funny. And then the other one was a smokescreen, which he used to try to escape. However, Nami anticipated him, and then she kills him in order to avoid the suspicion that they had towards her and retrieve her map. But for me personally, what I really enjoyed about the episode was the comedic aspect of everybody trying to find each other and then like just missing each other as they go between Arlong Park and Kokoyashi Village. I thought it was hilarious when Chu kind of just shows up in front of Usopp and then like drags him by the nose to the compound. And then obviously Usopp's fights always tend to be a little bit comedic in nature. I liked that he was using the wood as a body double before using the rotten eggs and then running away. I like how his hair became a bird nest. Another thing I like about this arc in particular is Hachan, of course, is very comedically relieving. Basically, he catches himself, he's using 3 different, what are they called? Fishing rods. I don't know why okay, he has 3 fishing rods, one of which he ends up catching himself with. And after complimenting the gutsiest fish in East Blue, he realizes it's himself, and of course it is. Then, of course, he meets Zoro, who he introduces himself to, but every time he asks Zoro for his name, he then immediately goes into, oh, you want my name too? It's Hachi or Hachan. And I thought that was fun. He immediately offers to give him a ride because he's a guest, which is very sweet because Hachan's one of my favorite characters that recurs, if you couldn't tell. And then there's, of course, him coming back to the compound and finding out that, like, oh my gosh, I didn't notice anything. I only saw this random, slightly suspicious swordsman I've never seen before, and I gave him a ride to Kokoyashi Village to find Arlo. Oh, wait. And then he realizes that was the person who, like, cut down all his brethren and feels really bad about it. And I feel sorry for him for feeling bad about it, but it's also really funny at the same time. And then even Usopp, like, as they're threatening him, his like nose like curls up to avoid a blade. There was a lot of comedy in it. And then even just the fact that when Luffy and Sanji and everybody arrive and the boat is launched, they somehow just have the perfect timing to catch Zoro running down the road and catch him onto the front of the boat before they crash into the wall. Once again, funny. So for me, the reason I gave it an 8 out of 10 was because of the comedic aspect of the episode. And because that's a rewatcher, obviously we know that Usopp is fine. Spoilers should be expected. It's a rewatch channel. So overall, like I said, 8 out of 10, and that brings the personal ranking list so far matching the objective list, even if the scores are slightly different. The list itself is in order. Most Wicked Man of East Blue, Fishman Pirate Arlong, Usopp's death, Luffy yet to land, followed by the Witch of Kokoyashi Village, Arlong's female officer. So our saga rankings, where we rank each of the arcs against each other. On our mostly objective ranking, we have in first place Romance Dawn with 86.67, Orange Town 76%, Baretti 68.33%, and then Syrup Village with 64%. Arlong Park so far has 25 out of 150. On our personal side, Orange Town's in first, 74%, Romance Dawn at 66.67, Baretti Arc at 52.5, and then Syrup Village at 49%. Arlong Park so far has a score of 22 out of a possible 150. Our series ranking so far has our mostly objective ranking for East Blue Saga at 25 out of 80 so far. Personal ranking is at 14 out of 80. And with that, we've now rewatched and ranked One Piece East Blue Saga Arlong Park Arc, Episode 33, Usopp's Death, Luffy Yet to Land. Like and subscribe if you'd like to, and I'll see you in the next episode.